Hey, this is Buck Dharma of Blue Oyster Cult, and you're listening to the Sports Circus.
Welcome to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP Television. Today's show is brought to you by UppercutChops.com. Check out their tasty selection of all-natural, dry-aged USDA, prime Angus, and Wagyu steaks and chops. Wait till you taste their best-in-class New York steaks, the filet mignon, the king of all those cowboy cut and tomahawk cut ribeyes, even those half-pound to third-pound burgers. USDA Prime, best I've ever had, probably be the best you ever have as well. Check them out at UppercutChops.com. That's UppercutChops.com. Or give them a call, find out what's for dinner, 714-948-0100, 714-948-0100. Again, 714-948-0100 for UppercutChops.com. All right, a big welcome in, everybody listening in on all of our radio and television affiliates from coast to coast. Everybody streaming on pick your favorite streaming platform, as well as everybody on Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook. Thanks for joining us there on the free food page that talks about great restaurants, recipes, even your favorite foods from all over the world. Doesn't matter what corner of the earth you're at, for all you flat earthers out there. Nonetheless, it is fun and it's free. Nice round of applause for Uppercut Chops and for our friends at Chicago Food Favorites. All right, folks. Today's show will be a little bit different because it deals with the idea of fair play and cheating in sports and whatnot. And listen, we all have talked about, well, you know, we suspect this, we suspect that, but we don't really know, or we do know, but we don't know. So there are, I guess, ethical boundaries that sports needs to be played within. And honestly, sports is supposed to be not only just the sport of competition, but it's also about other things such as competition and fair play and whatnot. But the question is, what is fair play? I mean, fair play can be defined in many, many different ways, but technically in sports, fair play encompasses what? Respecting rules. Absolutely agree. Play by the rules. Respect your opponents. Don't try to show up your opponents with bat flips and all this other garbage. Don't celebrate during the middle of a game when you do something. Celebrate with your team afterwards. How about respecting the officials? I mean, look, the calls are the calls. Unless, of course, they're in on something that show me the money! that may bring it into question. You never know. Well, of course, demonstrating integrity and sportsmanship. Integrity, what is that? It's basically doing the right thing when no one's looking. And sportsmanship, of course, everybody knows what sportsmanship is, but ultimately, basically bringing a positive and ethical competition environment to play and playing within it. So, look, if you're going to respect the rules, fair play means adhering to the established rules. Don't try to make them up as you go along, and don't take the ball and go home if you're on the playground because you don't like the way the rules are. Whether they're written or unwritten, understanding of these rules are in place, and of course, to ensure a level of playing field and fair competition. So we want a level playing field, fair competition. We want everyone to kind of be on the same page here. And you could dislike the rules or dislike this, that, and the other, but play by them. That's why you're playing the game anyway. But most importantly, I think you need to have some respect for your opponent and the officials. I mean, what if there's no official? Then at least have it for your opponent. So obviously treating the opponents, teammates, and coaches and referees with respect. Don't try to show them up. Don't try to be a jerk about it. Even in the heat of competition, just go ahead, suck it up, and go back and get them next time if the call doesn't go your way. But also, you want to do it with a certain degree of honesty and integrity. And fair play certainly requires honesty and integrity in all aspects of the game. Of course, avoiding any form of cheating, doping, right? We have that performance-enhancing drugs thing, or exploiting others to gain an unfair advantage. Now, that is a very murky, I guess that's a very murky one, thinking about exploiting others to gain an unfair advantage. What is an unfair advantage during a game, and how does one even in baseball. Oh, that's right. You could doctor the baseball if you're a pitcher, but this is not about that. Exploiting others to gain an unfair advantage is something referred to in baseball as Bush League baseball. And here's an example. Maybe there is a guy on second base with less than 2 outs. There's a pop-up to short. It's in short left field. Now, listen, the runner has the ability to, well, do what they want, I suppose. Let's just not take that advice or that example. Let's take this one. Maybe there's a runner on first base and he's rounding second on this big pop-up. It's a real high pop-up, skyscraper style. And he gets around by the shortstop and he yells something like clank as loud as he can to try to get that shortstop to drop the ball. Something like that. So loud noises or whatever geared at players to make them drop the ball or whatnot. That kind of stuff probably should be left alone. That's all little league stuff. And in the grow-up world, they call it Bush League. But honestly, me personally, I don't really care. Go ahead and razz the player. But I think a lot of people, they don't like that. And they say, well, yeah, that's Bush League ball. You can't do that. And we're going to hit you next time around and all this other crap. And that's fine. That's fine. So just respect the rules. And those are the exploiting others to gain an unfair advantage, meaning if that runner on first base is going past the shortstop and yelling something at him to get him to miss the ball, well, that would probably be an example of exploiting others to get that advantage. Is it fair? It's not that it's in the rule book that you can't do it. That's just an ethical and integrity issue, and try to do the right thing. But then, of course, there's the sportsmanship side of it, and demonstrating good sportsmanship, including gracefully accepting wins and losses, congratulating opponents, and refraining from excessive celebrations or taunting should be exercised, but we don't see that in baseball or in football these days. And all we're seeing is look at me, get the camera on me. I just, A, hit a home run. B, I did something that I just scored a touchdown, for example, in football. Everybody look at me, even if we're down 50-0. Everybody look at me because I just did something. Well, that is not very good sportsmanship, and that is not accepting wins or losses or congratulating the opponent or refraining from excessive celebrating or taunting, because that's absolutely all of that. And honestly, it's kind of weak. Shouldn't be doing it. If you're going to win or if you're going to celebrate with the team. It's the old Lou Holtz thing. Act like you've been there before when you score a touchdown. Give the ball to the referee. Get back into the huddle, for example, in football, and go back and do what you're supposed to do. When everybody wins at the end of the game, then you celebrate, and celebrate in the locker room or even on the sidelines after the other team has already exited the field. Don't be a jerk about it. I mean, honestly, you got to focus on the spirit of the game itself, and fair play does emphasize the spirit of competition and, of course, the enjoyment of the sport itself, rather than solely focusing on winning at any cost. And a lot of people say, look, either you win or you don't. I get it. It's the old Ricky Bobby, either you come in first or you're last. That kind of thing. That's from Talladega Nights. Of course, I guess I just paraphrased that. But the point is, look, you do win. Do you win at any cost? I don't necessarily know about that. I think that you're going to have to at least have a level playing field. And so think about all the games that you've ever played. And look, I don't like to lose. I don't lay down for people to win either. I don't care if I'm playing, at that time, my 4-year-old niece, I'm playing Chutes and Ladders. I want to win, and I want to win big. But then again, I'm playing a 4-year-old, but guess what? If you let the 4-year-old or 10-year-old or 20-year-old or whoever it is, if you let somebody win, then you're building up a false hope within them to do what? To win, and they're not necessarily winning, but you're letting them win. And unfortunately, they say, well, you're building confidence in them. Well, I don't know about that. Because then they're saying, well, I can beat this person and that person. When it comes to reality, they can't beat anybody. And then you want to talk about deflating somebody's ego immediately. I honestly think that letting somebody win is the wrong thing to do. But I think playing good competition and, hey, listen, if you beat me, that means you won. That means you busted your butt and you did what you had to do to win that game or win that match or whatever the heck it is. So I don't believe in laying down, and I don't believe necessarily in focusing on winning at any cost. if you do it for a living and you're getting paid for it, you still have to follow these rules of competition. Well, yes, there could be millions of dollars on the line, and maybe that's your livelihood. But you don't have to cheat. You don't have to play Bush League. You should do it with a certain degree of ethical standard and some morals and some kind of integrity and honesty. Then if you're not doing it, geez, I don't know. Why are we talking about this? We're going to get to that in a little bit here. And a lot of it has to do with financial and basically how certain organizations have used certain rules, financial rules, to technically load their teams up and get around the rule system that's put in place or the structure that's in its place. Can the other teams do it? Maybe they can. Maybe they don't have the financial strength to do that kind of, integrity and honesty when it comes to, or the lack thereof, I should say, when it comes to signing players and building teams. And that's really what this show is about. How do certain organizations manipulate those integrity and honesty rules and the financial rules in place to build teams that seem remarkably unfair? And it doesn't matter what sport it's in, but we're going to focus primarily on one just for the exercise itself. And I have to tell you, folks, albeit I like that club, I don't like what they do and I don't like how they do it. Back here in a few minutes on the Sports Circus. Lots more to come. Don't go anywhere.
Attention business owners, you and your customers are listening to this right now. Face it, every business needs customers, even yours. The Sports Circus is a primetime nationally syndicated program that's carried on ABC, NBC, CNBC, and Westwood One News affiliates, plus CBS, Fox, and NBC Sports affiliates across North America, with coverage from Hawaii to New York. Also, the Sports Circus is available to the 180 million subscribers on iHeartRadio, and the Sports Circus gets about 4 million website visitors per month, which could click through your website and bring sales. The Sports Circus provides great content featuring celebrity guests from sports and entertainment to our audience every weekday, which your company could greatly benefit from by increasing your visibility, foot traffic, eyeballs to your website, and calls from potential customers. Call us right now at
714-948-0100. Again, 714-948-0100.
Or email us at info@thesportscircus.com. That's info@thesportscircus.com. Drive your sales today by advertising with the Sports Circus.
Could you use a little extra money right now? If you'd like to borrow up to $100,000 and get pre-approved in minutes, call the number we'll give you at the end of this commercial. Our lending partners have already loaned millions of dollars to individuals just like you, and we're ready to lend you up to $100,000 if you qualify. Even if your credit is not perfect, you could use the money to pay off high-interest credit cards, for home renovations, or consolidate existing debt. You can get flexible, easy-to-pay terms. The consultation to find out if you qualify is free. To find out if you qualify for our special financing program, call this toll-free number 24 hours a day. 800-335-1376. 800-335-1376. 800-335-1376. That's 800-335-1376. Important terms and conditions apply. Not all applicants will qualify. Loan amount, annual percentage rate, and term will vary depending on creditworthiness. Applying does not guarantee approval. Account approval is subject to verification and confirmation of your credit history and acceptance by a lender. If you choose to apply for a loan through us, a consumer report will be obtained to evaluate your creditworthiness in connection with your application for credit.
That's the sound of sizzling, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks from UppercutChops.com. Their best-in-class filet mignons, New York steaks, and the king of all steaks, the tomahawk and cowboy cut ribeyes, are the best in the business. Even their Prime Wagyu burgers will likely be the best you've ever had. Browse the full selection of steaks and chops at UppercutChops.com from the comfort of your home or on your mobile device. UppercutChops.com delivers all-natural, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks and chops directly to your door. store without the hassle of going to the grocery store and fight crowds to pick from a small selection of average at best meats with injected steroids, fillers, and coloring added to look good. Find out what's for dinner at uppercutchops.com or call
714-948-0100, 714-948-0100, again, 714-948-0100.
or make your selection directly at uppercutchops.com.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm Roy Firestone. Now it's time to throw it back to Sal.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster, Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP Television. This segment brought to you in part by our friends over at the College of Southern Nevada Athletics. Check them out at csncoyotes.com for upcoming games and events. That's csncoyotes.com for the College of Southern Nevada Athletics. All right, welcome back to everybody listening in on all of our radio and television affiliates and streaming. Big hello to our friends over in Atlanta, WGJY 99.1 FM. Thanks for waking up with us. Over in Audubon, Alabama, not too terribly far away from there, our friends on WAUD, that is 1230 on the AM dial, home of the Atlanta Braves. Thanks for joining us over there. Up and down the heartland throughout the West Coast, all the way over to Honolulu, CBS Sports 1500 KHKA, home of the Yankees, 49ers, and Alabama Crimson Tide. Thanks for joining us there as well. Plus everybody else watching on Cox, Comcast, Spectrum, Frontier, Oceanic, Time Warner, Spectrum, and Wall Cable TV in select markets, as well as Hotel TV in over 500,000 rooms from coast to coast. Plus everybody on Apple, Amazon, Audible, Spotify, Pandora, YouTube, iHeart, Stitcher, Deezer, and all other streaming platforms. Thanks for joining us there, as well as Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook. Make sure you check that out, folks. Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook. All right. Now, in case you think that I'm reading all of those, I'm not. Believe it or not, when you've done a couple of thousand of these shows, you just have these orders burnt into your head. So if I start naming off or rattling off a whole bunch of cable providers, it's because I've done it so many times that I actually have it burnt into my head. It's ridiculous. And the same thing goes for different stations. Folks, if we named all these 200-odd radio stations, whatever that we work with, that carry our content or have access to our content, I got to tell you, I'm not going to remember it. And frankly, we'd be done with the segment before we even start the content, just because there's so many to acknowledge. So that's why we just name off a few of our favorites and we go ahead and go on from there. And Chicago Food Favorites, we talk about that because I'm the administrator for the group, and we have some of our favorite restaurants up there and recipes and food discussions. It's good stuff, folks. Again, check it out, Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook. Okay, in the last segment, I was talking about integrity and how people basically disrespect games, whether it's through cheating, dishonesty, or breaking the unwritten rules and so forth. And then I had alluded to the idea of there may be something going on with financial cheating or manipulation. First, let's define financial cheating in sports as, well, it does encompass various illegal and unethical activities, including what? This is financial cheating, by the way, including fraud, misappropriation of funds, unauthorized investments, of course, often perpetrated by those managing athletes' finances or exploiting their name and image. Well, let's just say, and likeness. Let's get the whole NIL thing in there. And of course, how about some different types of this? Of course, unauthorized investments. We've seen a lot of that with athletes' money and athletes' representatives making risky or unauthorized investments on their behalf, often for their personal gain. How about a misappropriation of funds or earnings? Using athletes' money for personal expenses or failing to properly manage their finances. Now, we've seen quite a bit of that. So that goes, pick your favorite sport. That's out there, folks. unauthorized use of name, image, and likeness. So using the athlete's name and image for endorsement deals or loans without their permission, that's a big fat no-no. How about the old false advice and misleading the investors? Ooh, that's a real big one. Providing athletes with inaccurate financial information, such as misleading investment returns or risk profiles. And we don't want to forget individuals posing as financial professionals, maybe to these athletes. So people actually do pretend to be financial advisors to swindle athletes out of their, well, up to, I guess, $1 billion in today's time. Of course, we have other forms of financial crimes, bribery, match fixing involving payments to influence the outcome of sporting events. I think we've seen that before, haven't we? And of course, gambling in sports, illegal betting activities related to the sports themselves. And let's face it, why are the high revenue athletes targeted? Because they've got money. Let's face it, they often have significant earnings and assets, making them very, very attractive targets with big bullseyes on them. And of course, athletes often rely on their representatives to manage their finances, creating opportunities for exploitation. And of course, the intense pressure to succeed in sports can lead some to make poor decisions or to cheat. Right? There's been all kinds of scandals in this, and of course I'll get to those in just a minute. Outside of the Lance Armstrong thing, the Pakistani thing, the Australian ball tampering scandal, etc. I'm going to get into that, probably next segment. But nonetheless, how about combating financial cheating? How do you do it? You think about maybe earning a little bit of financial literacy. That may help. And athletes, especially these basketball players that are one and done in and out of college inside of basically a semester or so, they really don't have a lot of the schooling for it. How about minor league baseball players that go right from high school right into the minor league system? They don't get an opportunity for that. Same thing with hockey players. They go right from hockeys, from the juniors, right into whether it's the minor leagues, I guess the Ontario Hockey League, the Western Hockey League, the Eastern Hockey League, whatever the heck it is, all those different hockey leagues, they don't have a chance to really learn on the classroom side as well. So athletes really should carefully vet their representatives and their advisors. But what if they don't know how to do it? That's another discussion for another time. But transparency and accountability is really important, and sports organizations should implement measures to ensure transparency and accountability in financial matters. So maybe the onus falls on the sports teams to educate those young athletes and their current athletes, whether they're young or not, I suppose. Maybe that's where the liability should fall. And think about the legal and regulatory framework in which the government and sports organizations should have strong laws and regulations to deter financial crimes in sports. But what if they don't? So let's take that a step further. Let's take a look at the Los Angeles Dodgers and how they use deferred money to build a Major League Baseball super team. Now, I'm a fan of the Dodgers. I had family that played the Dodgers organization. And it's hard for me to go through this, but I don't know. I mean, whether it's reported by this publication, that one, this one's by marca.com. We'll call them marca.com. They say, from, of course, their staff writers and whatnot, this is a very widely discussed topic. Now, this one was from a while back, but nonetheless, for years, Major League Baseball has sought ways to outmaneuver their rivals, the teams have, from the analytics and revolutions of Moneyball to innovations in player development and scouting. Of course, the Dodgers may have unlocked the next market inefficiency, and that is deferred money. And this creative financial strategy, allowing the team to pay players over extended periods, has propelled the Dodgers into uncharted territory while leaving the other franchises kind of watching what the heck's going on, like saying, how come we're not in on this? Well, there's a lot of reasons for that. I'll get to that in a minute. The latest example you may recall, of course, would be, for example, with the Dodgers, and they're been able to get Blake Snell. And look, they gave this guy a Cy Young Award winner, of course. That's his second one. He signed a 5-year, $182 million deal, which raised the eyebrows of many. That just wasn't not only the hefty price, but what really raised the eyebrows was the $66 million in deferred money embedded into the contract, set to be paid out in the 2030s. That's right. And the deal pushes the Dodgers' deferred money obligations past $1 billion, with payouts stretching into the 2040s.
Show me the money!
That's insanity. The 2040s. They've got $1 billion obligation. So at the heart of the Dodgers' financial strategy lies the willingness to postpone immediately cost in favor of long-term payments. And much of this deferred money, of course, is tied to Show Me the Money, Shohei Ohtani, and that ridiculous $700 million contract, which other teams had justified as profitable, of course. That's what the Dodgers say, hey, look, we could do it, and we're going to remain profitable. But the global market dollars, the global marketing dollars and brand recognition he generates kind of balances things out, allegedly. So even after accounting for Ohtani, the Dodgers still owe over $320 million in deferred salaries to other players, a number that dwarfs the commitment of most other Major League Baseball teams. That's right. And the question many are asking isn't why the Dodgers are doing this, but rather why isn't everyone else following suit? And deferred money agreements are entirely legal under the Major League Baseball collective bargaining agreements and must be mutually agreed upon by players and teams. Yet few franchises have embraced the tactic at the same time. And maybe some of this lies within the Dodgers ownership group. Now, when we come back from break, we're going to dive into the Guggenheim Partners. Of course, that is the Dodgers ownership group. And maybe take a bigger look at why this is happening with the Dodgers, how financially it's feasible for them to take these steps forward. But folks, that's an enormous $1 billion commitment going all the way into the 2040s. Yeah, that's right, the 2040s. Imagine that. Some of these small market teams, they can't do that. But when we come back, we're going to take a deeper dive into this whole Guggenheim Partners ownership group for the Dodgers and take a deeper look at this, and you'll wonder why some of the other clubs don't do the same thing, but I'll give you the answers. Back in a few minutes, folks. Lots more to come. I'm your ringmaster Sal of the Sports Circus, a primetime, nationally syndicated television, radio, sports, and entertainment show. The Sports Circus covers topics others are too scared to talk about. There's no other primetime show like it on here that'll punch you in the face and you'll beg for more. Join me, Hall of Famers, world champions, and all-star celebrity guests for chaos and controversy here on Libsyn and all podcast platforms, plus thesportscircus.com. Remember, folks, it's a circus and we prove it every day.
Hello Americans, it's Uncle Sam here. If you owe $10,000 or more in back taxes to the IRS or state, don't worry. I've got important news that may help you negotiate a lower tax bill. In today's economy, the IRS has released a variety of new rules and is offering more flexible terms to help Americans looking to settle their IRS debt. If you apply today, we may be able to lift your wage garnishments and release a freeze on your bank assets or business. Our team of tax professionals can resolve your case and stop collection actions against you. Even if you've been audited or haven't filed a return in years, they can help. Call right now and find out if you qualify to settle your IRS debt for far less than what you owe. Pick up your phone right now and call us for a free $500 IRS tax review. Don't wait. Here's the number.
Call right now. 800-950-2049. 800-950-2049. 800-950-2049. For the last time. That's 800-950-2049.
Do a search on how to get out of credit card debt, and you'll find everything from crazy promises to ways you can try to do it yourself. Many of those ideas just don't work, and they leave you broker than you were. Here's some advice. Call our debt helpline. In a quick and free 5-minute conversation, our experts will listen to you and learn about how much credit card debt you have, what your goals are, and then show you the right solution to help you get out of credit card debt with one new simple, affordable payment. The credit card companies make available special programs to help if you're struggling. All it takes for you to finally get out of credit card debt is one quick, free phone call. So please call right now.
800-948-6817. 800-948-6817. 800-948-6817. That's 800-948-6817. Paid for by the Debt Helpline.
That's ridiculous.
Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
Hey everyone, Dave Jackson here, ESPN rules analyst on ESPN Hockey, and you're listening to the Sports Circus.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster, Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP Television. Folks, make sure to check out thesportscircus.com for upcoming guests, prior guests, recorded shows, which can be found on Apple, Amazon, Audible, Spotify, Pandora, YouTube, iHeart, Stitcher, Deezer, plus all other platforms. And also, make sure you check out the store at the top of the sportscircus.com website. Click on that little tab there. And just go ahead and check out all those wonderful made in the USA products, hats, t-shirts, sweatpants, coats, coffee mugs, travel mugs, pillows, mouse pads, you name it, they're there. All with the Sports Circus logo and, of course, the clothing with all embroidered craft work. Wonderful products made right here in these United States of America, and they're all at a very affordable number. So guess what, folks? If you want some of that Sports Circus gear, check out the store at the Sports Circus and go ahead and tell them that Ringmaster Sal sent you for a nice discount on all your goods. All right. A shameless plug for the Sports Circus. All right, welcome back to everybody. You know who you are. TV, radio, streaming. Last segment talking about, I wouldn't say financial cheating in sports and the Dodgers. We'll say the creative finance side of the Dodgers building super teams. And so I left off with saying the question many are asking with the Dodgers, of course, with their $1 billion in deferment through the night. I guess it's the 2040s. Is it? I think it's $1 billion, if I'm not mistaken. Some crazy number like that. Maybe it is, yeah, it's $1 billion stretching into the 2040s. And the question that many are asking isn't why the Dodgers are doing it, but rather why isn't everybody else following suit? According to Marca.com, deferred money agreements are entirely legal, once again, under Major League Baseball collective bargaining agreements and must be mutually agreed upon by the players and teams. Yet few franchises have embraced the tactic to that same extent. And how about this? Let's take a closer look at the Guggenheim Partners, the Dodgers ownership group. Look, they have a unique advantage. As a global investment firm, Guggenheim can strategically reinvest the money saved by deferring the payments themselves to the players. By leveraging those funds over the coming years, they expect to generate returns that will more than cover their future financial obligations. Essentially, the team is betting on their ability to grow wealth faster than inflation and future payroll commitments, a luxury many other Major League Baseball owners are hesitant to risk. Now, let's just stop there for a minute. Let's think about that. What if the unthinkable happens and those investments go sideways? So what about the guarantees to the players for their future revenue? I think it was Ohtani with $700 million deferred or some crazy number. I don't know. My question is, what happens if the company goes belly up? Well, they go into Chapter 11 first, into essentially reorganization or recapitalization of their debt. That's Chapter 11. Chapter 13, in case you don't know, is basically a debt consolidation. And of course, Chapter 7 is the financial death of an organization or a person when they have said, we just can't do it anymore. So what happens if this happens? Maybe from the 11 to the 13, possibly to the 7. Do the players get their money? Well, there are liquidation factors when it comes into the paperwork. Now, we don't know what the U.S. Bankruptcy Court in this particular case would say, but it would occur to me that the water would sure get muddy for those players that are owed all that money. They're all owed a bunch of money. And what happens if they end up losing that money? Yet, the organization made the money and benefited by that. All their officers did and so forth. How does that work? Well, that, as I look at it, that is just an accounting disaster. And when I think about accounting disasters, I think of Enron. And Enron, of course, with the crafty manipulation of the generally accepted accounting principles, the way they manipulated the generally accepted accounting principles, as I understood it nonetheless, well, I guess the question is, what kind of compliance from accounting standards maybe should be considered for Major League Baseball? It's because of, as I recall, the Sarbanes-Oxley accounting standards, or technically it's the compliance that was put into place because of the whole Enron situation in the first place with the clever massaging of generally accepted accounting principle numbers. Well, listen, folks, don't think for a second that something weird could happen in an organization that's an investment organization. You never know. And maybe something weird would happen or could happen that a player at some point may end up getting compromised with all the money that is owed to them. I don't know. I'm not in that business, but it sure stands to reason that other teams, and the hesitancy often comes down to the ownership structure and long-term planning. I mean, not every team has the financial structure of the Dodgers. Take the small market teams, like for example, the Kansas City Royals. It was a real stretch for them to pay Bobby Witt Jr. $288 million over, I think it was 8 years. And he is, in my opinion, one of the top players in Major League Baseball. But was the contract easy to digest for the Royals ownership group? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. Other small market teams, you think of the Miami Marlins, a very small market team. In basketball, you think of the Portland Trail Blazers, Milwaukee Bucks, very small market teams. The Sacramento Kings, small market teams. The New Orleans Pelicans, small market teams. And you say, wait a minute. Do these guys, these organizations, have the financial strength, for example, like the Dodgers do or don't? Maybe they're not as willing to make a deal, kind of like what the Dodgers did. So when you think about what the critics are saying, they say, well, they argue the Dodgers are using deferred money to construct a super team, creating an unfair advantage, which I happen to agree. Yet the strategy is available to all teams. It simply requires a vision and a tolerance for financial complexity. And some say, according to The Athletic, the front office executives have told The Athletic, quote, it's not about breaking the rules, it's about playing smart within them, close quote. So we'll give that to the Dodgers for doing that. But as the Dodgers continue to dominate both on and off the field, other teams may eventually follow their lead because they're kind of going to have to. Like we saw with players with steroids, other players started using them that were already great players. They didn't have to, but it was almost like keeping up with the Joneses, whoever the Joneses happen to be. But the idea is some players will go to play for the Dodgers because they know that they have a really good shot of winning, at least making the postseason. And ultimately, they might get paid some crazy amount of money. So then it goes down to the same idea for college recruiting and this transfer portal nonsense. And some people will transfer schools, some of these student athletes, well, they're really just athletes anyway, they're not hardly students. They'll transfer school to school chasing the money instead of chasing the education. And so the same thing in professional sports, what are they doing? They're chasing the money. But at some point you ask, when they stop chasing the money, maybe they don't want to go play for that super team, what do they want to do? Well, they want the money, but maybe they don't want to migrate over to some of these other squads. And that's when you start asking yourself, well, what could they possibly be doing? Well, this is when we have the birth of these cheating scandals. And the cheating scandals, let me tell you something, folks, these go way back in time. This is not anything new. In fact, there's a nice handy-dandy article on USA Today that outlines it that we're going to go over from Tom Schad. He wrote this a little while back. But what's interesting about it is that it almost seems as though if you don't want to get along to go along, you'll go out and basically do it yourself and compromise something, according to these things, according to these articles or this article with all these instances in it. And maybe people are just saying, these athletes are saying, we're not going to play ball with all these other people. We're going to play by ourselves, and we're going to control the outcome, and we're going to get paid on the outcome for us doing what we're doing, and then potentially also betting on it. They're probably essentially getting paid twice on it. And so you ask yourself, why would they do that? Well, maybe they're not good enough to go play for these super teams in the first place, but they know they're good enough to be in a starting lineup somewhere, which means they can be bought. Technically, they can be. So you ask yourself, maybe they could be bought, and maybe they can do what? Bet on the game as well. So they will get paid effectively 2 times without having to deal with all the team politics. And unfortunately, some of the players and coaches, of course we know about betting and coaches, some of them may or may not compromise their games, maybe for their side, and maybe they'll conveniently cooperate with the other team so it looks like it was a legit win for the other team. And see, this is, in my opinion, exactly why Pete Rose will not get into the Hall of Fame, because for him to get into Cooperstown, first of all, he had done things off the field and actually on the field that were not good for Major League Baseball. And so the betting situation, we don't know if Pete had bet with the other teams, bet against his team. He says, well, I only bet on my team. First, he said he didn't even bet at all. And then, of course, he finally admitted that he did bet. But the point is, we don't really know what happened. Now, in all of these other examples, I'm going to get into it in the next segment, we don't know what happened either, except for one thing. They were caught cheating. That's right. One way or another, either they were caught or it came out into the public eye. And that's what happens when you're all about the money. So, folks, if you're thinking about gambling on sports that you're playing in or anything like that, don't do it. No. Back here in a few minutes on The Circus. Lots more to come, folks. We're going to dive into this cheating thing on The Circus.
Can your IRA stand up to the next financial crisis that our top economists are saying is at our doorsteps? By allocating a percentage of your IRA into physical gold and silver with a tax-free rollover, you can diversify and safeguard your holdings from turbulent markets and economic downturns by putting your IRA back on the gold standard. Find out how to safeguard your assets with a tax-free rollover with a Genesis Gold IRA, the only IRA that can hold physical precious metals. Call now for your free gold and silver report. Protect your IRA today with one simple phone call and learn how to qualify for up to $10,000 in free silver. Call Genesis Gold Group, empowering faith-driven stewardship. 800-932-5517. 800-932-5517. 800-932-5517. That's 800-932-5517.
If you served in the Marine Corps, by now you know about the contaminated water problem at Camp Lejeune. If you were stationed or worked at Camp Lejeune from 1953 to 1987, you probably have a lot of questions. We have some answers. You could be entitled to compensation. Billions of dollars are being allocated to pay for damages to anyone stationed at Camp Lejeune during that time. Unfortunately, it appears that officials may have known the contaminated water problem existed and did little to protect their men. The Semper Fi Code was not honored. If you or someone in your family has developed a serious illness, including various forms of cancer, call this Camp Lejeune legal support line right now. You can't turn back the clock and change what happened, but you can certainly call right now and learn your rights as a Marine. Here's the number.
Call 800-335-7196. 800-335-7196. That's 800-335-7196.
Do a search on how to get out of credit card debt. And you'll find everything from crazy promises to ways you can try to do it yourself. Many of those ideas just don't work, and they leave you broker than you were. Here's some advice. Call our debt helpline. In a quick and free 5-minute conversation, our experts will listen to you and learn about how much credit card debt you have, what your goals are, and then show you the right solution to help you get out of credit card debt with one new simple, affordable payment. The credit card companies make available special programs to help if you're struggling. All it takes for you to finally get out of credit card debt is one quick, free phone call. So please call right now.
800-948-6817. 800-948-6817. 800-948-6817. That's 800-948-6817. Paid for by the Debt Helpline.
Hey everybody, this is Brian Urlacher. Welcome back to the Sports Circus.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP Television. Thanks for joining us on all of our CBS, NBC, and Fox Sports affiliates and independents from coast to coast. Also on Hotel TV, plus everybody on Cox, Comcast, Spectrum, Frontier, Oceanic, Time Warner, Spectrum, Wild Cable Television affiliates in select markets. Thanks for joining us also on Chicago Food Favorites and on all of our streaming platforms, Apple, Amazon, Audible, Spotify, Pandora, iHeartRadio, YouTube, Stitcher, Deezer, etc., and so forth. All right, carrying on with this USA Today culmination of 10 scandals that rocked the world, because we're talking about cheating today, whether it's on the field or apparent financial cheating. I don't know. Dodgers, we talked about you and your super teams. Is it cheating? I don't necessarily believe it, but boy, it is certainly questionable. Think about the old idea that, well, if you've got enough money, I guess the golden rule, he who has more gold makes the rules, and that kind of a thing. And that is a matter of fact. So at every level, in every sport, there are occasional opportunities for athletes to bend or ignore the rules to give themselves an edge, according to USA Today. And in every sport at every level, at least some of them actually do. Cheating in all of its myriads and forms and so forth has long been an unavoidable part of sport. And I think in life, generally speaking. For hundreds of years, it's been at the center of some of the most dramatic athletic scandals and controversial moments, raising questions of integrity and in many cases spurring significant changes to the rules themselves. And of course, the history is so long and vast that it would be impossible to come up with a comprehensive list of cheating incidents in sports. So instead of a list of hundreds and hundreds or thousands of these events, how about a list or a timeline of 10 of them from deceit in ancient Greece? And we'll go up to maybe 2017-ish, maybe a little bit later, depending on time. But we're going to start all the way back in 388 BC. This is crazy. Yes, even the days of Plato and Sparta, there was evidence of cheating. In a 1952 journal article titled, quote, "Crime and Punishment in Greek Athletes," close quote, Ohio State. Funny, they actually had a part of this. Professor Clarence Forbes detailed some of the athletic scandals in ancient Greece, including a boxing bribery incident at the 98th Olympics. That's right, the 98th Olympics. This is according to USA Today. In 388 BC, Eupolis of Thessaly allegedly bribed all three of his opponents to let him win, prompting game organizers to impose, quote, heavy fines, close quote, on all four men. The money, according to Forbes, was then used to erect 6 bronze statues near the entrance to the stadium in Olympia, with inscriptions on 4 of them criticizing the men and warning against future cheating. How do you like that one? I guess you didn't really expect to hear that now, did you? Let's go back to 1904. Fred Lohr's hitches a ride. How about this one? The marathon at the 1904 Summer Games in St. Louis had been described by Olympics.com as the, quote, most bizarre spectacle in Olympic history, close quote. One runner was reportedly chased off the course by a pack of wild dogs. That's right, a wild dogs. Pack of dogs. Another stopped at an orchard to eat some apples. Oh yeah, developed stomach cramps and, well, I guess they took a nap and somehow magically finished 4th. That's ridiculous. And a third man was supposedly hallucinating and carried off by his trainers over the finish line. And the apparent winner was American Fred Lohr's, who spent 11 miles riding along in a car. Oh, come on. He was called out and admitted to cheating before he could be awarded a medal. But the reality is the guy still got a medal. That's the crazy part about it.
Show me the money!
Right? I guess in his case, it's show me the medal. How ridiculous. This guy, 11 miles. Well, a marathon is what, 26 miles? So for 11 miles, he was in a car? That is absurd. I mean, that is, in my opinion, I would agree with Olympics.com described as the most bizarre spectacle in Olympic history. Absolutely. Then we go back to the 1919 Black Sox. And it was the first bombshell scandal in professional baseball, and perhaps the most flagrant. 1919 members of the Chicago White Sox accepted money from professional gamblers to effectively throw the World Series because they were that good. They were that good. They squared off against the Cincinnati Red Stockings. Well, guess what? Those guys, or the Red Legs, as they were called back then, if I'm not mistaken, they were not nearly as good, and the White Sox were that good. Now, the only guy, there was 8 guys that were implicated into the scheme, with each of them later being indicted by a Chicago grand jury on conspiracy charges. Though they were all acquitted in the criminal trial, Commissioner Kennesaw Mountain Landis still permanently banned them from organized baseball. And the reality is, they did not strip the Reds of that World Series title because it was thrown, which they absolutely should have stripped the title and made it a no contest. But it was Shoeless Joe Jackson who was not indicted because he did not cheat. How do you like that? So for all you that didn't know, well, now you know. There's a little something about the Black Sox and baseball that you didn't know. Pretty interesting stuff, folks. So how about in 1951, the City College of New York and their point shaving scheme? Oh, yeah, this is all USA Today, folks. You don't believe it? Check it out. 30 years after the Black Sox scandal, a group of college basketball players starting at City College of New York decided to take money from bookmakers, this time in exchange for manipulating the scores of a game. A whopping 32 players from 7 colleges eventually admitted to accepting bribes in the point-shaving scheme. 2 of those players and at least 10 other fixers, agents, or bookies went on to serve jail time, according to the 4-letter network. Kind of like we had Tim Donaghy on our show here many years ago. And of course, if you want to go look through the archives at thesportscircus.com, you can find it. Just do a Control F for find search and put the name Donaghy in there, and you'll find it and listen to the episode. It was very interesting. Tim went to prison for 13 months, and he said he got beat up every day in prison because of it. Oh, yeah. So moving on, how about the 1986 Hand of God? The infamous goal by Diego Maradona led Argentina to a 2-1 win over England in the quarterfinals of the 1986 World Cup, which, of course, his team, well, you got to go back to this, his team would eventually win. He initially said it was the, quote, hand of God, close quote, that knocked the ball into the net rather than his own. But in his autobiography 14 years later, Maradona fessed up, quote, what hand of God, close quote. And then he wrote, quote, it was the hand of Diego, exclamation, and it was like stealing the wallet of the English too, close quote. Oh, mercy. Have you no shame? Speaking of no shame, 1994, a lot of people remember this one. I remember this very clearly. Figure skating attack. Cheating incidents in sports rarely involve acts of violence, but this one did. In a brazen assault, a man named Shane Stant attacked top U.S. figure skater Nancy Kerrigan with a baton after practice. And the twist? It was later revealed that Stant had been hired to attack Kerrigan by the ex-husband of her main rival, Tanya Harding, in hopes that the injury would prevent Kerrigan from competing in the national championships and the 1994 Winter Olympics. And of course, Kerrigan was forced to pull out of the national championships, but recovered and won a silver medal at the games. Harding also competed in Lillehammer and placed 8th. That is awful. And then we go to 2000. How about the disgrace at the Paralympics? Boy, you want to talk about zero values and just zero, being morally bankrupt. That's probably the best way to say it. Perhaps one of the most shocking and oft-forgotten cheating scandals took place at the 2000 Paralympics, involving Spain's intellectual disability basketball team. The team won gold in Sydney, but was later found to be what? Fraudulent, with 10 of 12 players having faked their disabilities. That's ridiculous. Now, the incident had a number of devastating ripple effects, with Paralympic organizers deciding to suspend the entire intellectual disability classification at each of the next 2 games, leaving athletes with legitimate disabilities on the sidelines for 8 years and no accountability. And the 2 Spanish players who actually had intellectual disabilities had to forfeit their medals, just like their other teammates. That is an abomination, folks. I can't even believe that one even happened. And then, of course, we have, for all you people that love home runs, how from 1995 to 2005, essentially baseball's steroid era. And with apologies to Lance Armstrong and Russia's state-sponsored scheme, baseball's steroid era remains the biggest doping scandal in history. Dozens of players were implicated, including, according to USA Today, Mark McGwire, Rafi Palmeiro, and several other big stars. Congress got involved. Major League Baseball was forced to overhaul its drug testing policies. And while the time period listed here covered the, quote, peak, close quote, of the era, including the 1998 home run record chase between McGwire and Sammy Sosa, it effects stretched well beyond this window, from the Mitchell Report to Barry Bonds' trial for perjury. That one was absolutely awful. And then, of course, we have the old Deflategate, 2015. A lot of people know this one. This was a weird one, according to USA Today. And one of the greatest quarterbacks in NFL history was in the middle of it. The accusation that Tom Brady, then with the Patriots, asked the team equipment staffer to deliberately underinflate footballs in the AFC Championship game against the Colts, which the Patriots won. Brady was suspended 4 games and appealed that suspension all the way to the U.S. Appeals Court, and the NFL commissioned a 243-page investigation report into what happened. Deflategate, as it became known, wasn't as dramatic as Spygate or as sinister as Bountygate, according to USA Today, but it will likely go down as the most memorable cheating incident in recent NFL history, given the quarterback involved. And finally, we have the Houston Astros. We're going to finish up with them 2019. Sign stealing has always been a part of baseball, but the Houston Astros took it to a whole new level when they began using a camera in center field to zoom on the opponent's catcher. And the second part of the scheme was far less technologically sophisticated, when the Astros would bang a trash can to signal their teammates that a breaking ball was coming, or not bang it to signal a fastball was coming. And the incident cast a really big cloud over the 2017 World Series title, led to several suspensions, firings, and fines, and later the introduction of PitchCom, a way for catchers and pitchers to communicate their signals wirelessly. Well, that's going to do it for the show today, folks. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, and remember, when it comes to your taxes, don't cheat on those either, because Uncle Sam will get you. Back here in 23 hours on your favorite station. Until then, so long, everyone.
Can your IRA stand up to the next financial crisis that our top economists are saying is at our doorsteps? By allocating a percentage of your IRA into physical gold and silver with a tax-free rollover, you can diversify and safeguard your holdings from turbulent markets and economic downturns by putting your IRA back on the gold standard. Find out how to safeguard your assets with a tax-free rollover with a Genesis Gold IRA, the only IRA that can hold physical precious metals. Call now for your free gold and silver report. Protect your IRA today with one simple phone call and learn how to qualify for up to $10,000 in free silver. Call Genesis Gold Group, empowering faith-driven stewardship. 800-932-5517. 800-932-5517. 800-932-5517. That's 800-932-5517.